Well, I'm coming to you live from my hotel room here in Detroit because I just finished a pretty long road trip, and that doesn't change the fact that there's some breaking news. This one's a little bit unique. Again, something new from Tesla with these price changes. This one is actually going to include a brand new model from Tesla because this one is, well, maybe it's easier if I just show you. Also, for those of you who have already purchased a rear-wheel drive Model Y, you're gonna want to listen up because it sounds like there's something very special about your car that may be able to be unlocked very soon. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in because there's a whole lot to unpack here, and I want to get into those details right now. Okay, so here we are on Tesla's website, and the first thing I want to do is take a look at the Model Y. Now, the Model Y, as you will see right here, we have our rear-wheel drive Model Y, but now it is a long-range rear-wheel drive Model Y. That's right, it now has 320 miles of range. This is a $2,000 increase from what we had previously, but it's a jump of 60 miles of range, which is huge. This was 260, now it's 320, and it's $2,000 more. So that brings the difference between the long-range all-wheel drive and the long-range rear-wheel drive to $3,000. So both of them still qualify for the tax credit, which is fantastic. So that does not change anything with the Model Y and its qualification. So that $3,000 actually gets you less range, but it does give you better 0 to 60 of 4.8 versus now 6.5 seconds 0 to 60. Also, the interior is going to miss out on some of the premium features. So right here we can see with audio and media, this is a 7-speaker, 1 amp immersive sound system. And if we change this back over to the long-range all-wheel drive, this is premium audio at 13 speakers, 1 sub, 2 amps. And then over here on the convenience features, we can see LED fog lights. That's the only other difference here on what you're going to be missing out on the interior of this car. Of course, you can still not get the 7-seat configuration, and that is the case for also the performance. It's always been the case. So the third row is only available in the long-range all-wheel drive. So we have our long-range all-wheel drive set up here already, which is fantastic. 4,154 pounds compared to 4,363 on the long-range all-wheel drive. And then down here for charging, it does have a max 250 kilowatt charge rate. So it has unlocked full charging. You can get 160 miles in 15 minutes of charge versus the same 160 miles in 15 minutes. So that 10 miles of range isn't really going to change anything. It sounds like this is the same charging curve, basically based on this part. At least the bottom half of the pack is likely the same charging curve, and that's an important detail. Now, this is where things are going to get a little bit interesting because the quote 260-mile range Model Y is built over the past several months actually have more range that can be unlocked for $15 to $2,000. Gains of 40 to 60 miles of range, depending on which battery cells you have. Working through regulatory approvals to enable this. This is huge. The thing about this is which rear-wheel drive Model Y do you potentially have? In my mind, there's two possible scenarios here. We have the late 2023 Model Y rear-wheel drive and the current 2024 Model Y rear-wheel drive before the long range was just released. So the 2023 Model Y rear-wheel drive, sometime in the second half of last year, it did get a new battery pack. It's the LG battery cells in it, and it's a 78 kilowatt hour battery pack, and we know it's locked to 70 kilowatt hours, and it is capped at 220 kilowatt hour charge. That may not be a cap, that may actually be the maximum it can charge with or without a cap. This one likely, if we're listening to Elon Musk's words word for word, it very likely is going to be more like the $1,500 upgrade, giving you 40 additional miles of range. So going from 260 rated to 300. If you have a 2024 Model Y, then you have the Panasonic NCA 79 kilowatt hour locked battery pack to 67 kilowatt hours. This is currently also locked at 160 kilowatt hours for charging, and that is very evident when you look at the charging curve because it is very flat for most of the bottom half of the pack at 160 kilowatt hours, and this is likely that $2,000 upgrade because now you'll get 60 additional miles of range, bringing you to 320, which is the new rated range of the rear-wheel drive long-range Model Y. So they're already building this car, and they've been building this car all this time. Now, that said, there is one thing that throws that all off. And if we go back to Tesla's website, this is the one thing that really doesn't add up. So looking at the long range rear-wheel drive, actually the delivery time frame for this is June of 2024. So you're not going to be able to get this just yet. So this is a month until you'll be able to get it. So they're going to try to rush for quarter end, of course, but this is not available right now. And there are rear-wheel drive Model Ys in inventory right now. So something is changing, and it very well could be this battery pack. All right, so here we see the updated pricing, and we've had a few changes this year already. So this newest one brings our rear-wheel drive Model Y up. So 44,990, which it was just earlier this year. So it's kind of seesawed back and forth throughout this year. I want to talk about effective pricing though, because this continues to be the story that is at some point going to need to be solved, and that is the fact that the Model Y, because all models qualify for the tax credit, these prices are pretty competitive compared to the Model 3. So everything qualifies. We're now talking $37,490 after tax credit for the rear-wheel drive Model Y. The prices for the long-range Model Y and the performance Model Y are still the same at $44,990 and $43,990. So even with this price increase, the rear-wheel drive Model Y is still cheaper by $1,500 than the rear-wheel drive Model 3. This has 320 miles of range compared to the Model 3 rear-wheel drive. So not only is this still cheaper, this is actually an even better value than it was before compared to the Model 3. Of course, the long-range all-wheel drive is almost the same price before tax credit, so we're talking $7,250 cheaper for the Model Y long-range all-wheel drive. And the performance still $2,500 cheaper after that tax credit, and this still has yet to be solved. Finally, I want to take a look over here at the inventory. So as we can see, we were hitting some pretty big spikes here recently, and just about the time we had a $2,000 price decrease, the inventory did drop significantly. Now it is climbing, but much slower than it has been previously. So something interesting here, it's not just the fact that inventory is finally down, but the rate in which it is growing is much slower than it was previously. Over here on the Model S and Model X, we're starting to see an accelerated growth in Model X, which is not a surprise because we're starting to see more Model Y starting to sell. Model S continues to grow at a steady pace. Model 3, however, we're getting more jumps, and this is big pushes of inventory being shipped, and these are not being consumed faster than they are being produced. Again, that's no surprise because of the tax credits. So like I said, there's a lot of interesting things happening right now. This is more than just a price change. This is really unlocking the model that we've had all this time this year and giving you that extra range. Having a rear-wheel drive long-range Model Y should be super efficient, should be able to get maximum charging rate. It should be an incredible value, and you should seriously consider a rear-wheel drive Model Y at this point, especially if it's got 10 more miles of range compared to the dual motor, which is pretty incredible. So let me know in the comments if you took delivery of a rear-wheel drive Model Y. This should be really good news for you. Are you going to save up $1,500 or $2,000 and get yourself ready to unlock additional range in your Model Y? Let me know what your thoughts are on this. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Can't wait to catch you on the next one.